Barcelona, Day 2 of testing. Final hour. Isac Hadjar, Red Bull's newest driver, pushes through turn 14 in wet conditions. And then, silence. The RB22, Red Bull's masterpiece of aerodynamic aggression, is embedded in a Tech Pro barrier. Rear end destroyed. The promising afternoon session? Over in an instant. Hadjar climbs out unharmed. But the damage is done. Because this wasn't just a rookie mistake in the rain. This was the first crack in Red Bull's boldest gamble yet. And the question everyone's asking isn't just what happened. It's whether this crash is a warning sign of something bigger. Because in Formula One, the line between genius and disaster is measured in millimeters and degrees Celsius. Let's set the scene properly. Day 2 in Barcelona was supposed to be quiet. Wet weather, mixed conditions. Only 2 teams brave enough to take to the track. But what unfolded was anything but boring. Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc shared the circuit in the morning session. Verstappen posting the best time of 1 minute and 19.578 seconds on a drying track. Leclerc did 67 laps. Verstappen managed 27. And then Verstappen brought out a brief red flag when he went off at turn 5, finding the gravel but returning safely to the garage. The rain forced both drivers onto intermediates and full wets for most of the session. Limited dry running. Tricky conditions. The kind of day where you learn more about car balance than outright speed. But it was the afternoon session that changed everything. Lewis Hamilton climbed into the Ferrari. Isac Hadjar took over the RB22. And for Hadjar, this was it. His last opportunity to drive the car after participating in both sessions on Monday. He'd shown potential. He'd been clean. He'd been building confidence. Until turn 14. The crash came fast. Wet conditions. A moment of oversteer. The rear snaps. And before Hadjar can correct it, the RB22 is backwards into the barrier. Images spread across social media within minutes. Marshals recovering the car. The rear bodywork crumpled. The session over. Red Bull confirmed Hadjar was unharmed. A small relief in the chaos. But here's what makes this crash more than just an unfortunate moment in the rain. Red Bull was the only team to participate in both days of testing at Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. That means they've now completed 2 out of their 3 allocated testing days. They have only 1 more on-track day left for this week. And with the RB22 damaged, with valuable track time lost, the pressure just multiplied. Because this isn't just about Hadjar's mistake. This is about a car that Red Bull built to live on the edge. And edges have a way of biting back. So let's talk about that edge. Let's talk about the RB22. And the philosophy that makes it the most controversial car on the grid before the season even starts. When the RB22 first rolled out of the pit lane on day 1, the entire Formula One world leaned forward at the same time. Cameras zoomed in. Engineers stopped talking. And inside the Red Bull garage, Max Verstappen stood watching quietly as his new car took its first breaths on track. This wasn't just another shakedown. This was Red Bull showing its hand for the new era. And the RB22 didn't scream for attention with flashy colors or dramatic wings. It whispered something far more dangerous. The sidepods, or rather, how unbelievably small they were. From certain angles, the car looked almost impossibly slim, like someone had tightened the bodywork too far and forgotten to stop. Engineers in the paddock immediately began circling photos, drawing lines, zooming in, asking the same question over and over again. How did Red Bull even manage this? One prominent technical analyst described the RB22's bodywork as extremely tapered, comparing it to a tightened-up version of what Mercedes experimented with in the past. But Red Bull didn't just copy an idea. They pushed it further than anyone expected. The frontal cross-section of the side pods is shockingly small. The air intake area has been reduced to a level no other team has dared to try so far. While most teams arrived in Barcelona with large, forgiving cooling solutions, Red Bull went the opposite way. They chose risk. They chose efficiency. They chose speed. And this aggressive philosophy didn't come out of nowhere. Back in 2025, Red Bull already started playing with unconventional cooling ideas, including an additional inlet mounted on top of the side pod, taking advantage of high-pressure air created by the cockpit itself. Now, with the RB22, that thinking has gone even further. The side pods are tighter, the inlets are smaller, and everything about the car suggests that aerodynamic performance was placed above almost everything else. What makes this even more fascinating is the contrast inside the Red Bull family. While Red Bull Racing has gone ultra-slim, their sister team, Racing Bulls, has done the exact opposite, arriving with oversized air intakes and a much more cautious cooling approach. It's a split philosophy playing out in real time. One team betting on efficiency, the other protecting reliability. And everyone's asking the same question: which one is right? There are also reports of an additional inlet hidden between the rocker and sponsorship areas on the RB22. Its exact purpose isn't fully clear yet. It could be feeding extra cooling air to critical components, or it could be serving a purely aerodynamic role, shaping airflow toward the rear of the car. Either way, it's another sign that Red Bull is using every millimeter of regulatory freedom available. Then there's the double barge board stay. This detail might sound small, but it's one of the most talked about features in the paddock. Red Bull's solution closely mirrors what Ferrari has done with the SF26, suggesting that both teams have independently identified this area as a key development zone under the 2026 rules. When rival teams arrive at the same idea, it usually means something important is happening. But the real talking point, the one lighting up technical forums and late-night group chats, is what analysts are calling this side pod cannon exits. Completely new for 2026. Instead of simply dumping hot air out of the side pods, Red Bull appears to be directing that airflow with purpose. The hot air is expelled in a way that energizes airflow over the rear of the car, potentially increasing downforce while also reducing drag. In simple terms, Red Bull might be turning waste heat into lap time. That's not just clever, that's bold. To make this extreme side pod concept work, Red Bull has clearly shifted some of its cooling responsibility elsewhere. The airbox on the RB22 is noticeably larger than in previous years, shaped more like the one used by Racing Bulls. This central airbox feeds the engine and hybrid systems through ducts running along the center line of the car. By moving more cooling capacity there, Red Bull can afford to shrink the side pod inlets without immediately risking overheating. And this matters more than ever, because the 2026 power units have changed the game. The combustion engine actually needs less cooling than before, but the much larger hybrid system, it produces more heat. Every team has had to rethink their cooling strategy from the ground up. Red Bull's answer is clear: minimize the aerodynamic cost of cooling, even if it means walking a very fine line. And that's where the real tension lives. Because the new power units are untested in race conditions. Testing laps are short. Fuel loads are low. A full Grand Prix distance? That's a completely different beast. If Red Bull has underestimated how much heat their hybrid system generates over a race, they could be forced into emergency solutions. Opening up bodywork, adding louvers, sacrificing the very aerodynamic gains that make this car special. And once you open that door, you can't why close it again? Now let's talk about Ferrari. Because while Red Bull is gambling on extremes, Ferrari is playing a different game entirely. Ferrari completed over 100 laps during the closed-door test in Barcelona, with Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton sharing driving duties. Leclerc managed 64 laps, testing the SF26 on both dry and wet tracks. Hamilton added 56 laps in the afternoon. The test was a debut for Ferrari's SF26, with Leclerc trying out the new partial active aero mode. Despite the rain, the team gathered valuable data, focusing on the car's performance under different conditions. And here's the contrast. Ferrari hasn't even run yet in the full paddock spotlight, but early images of the SF26 already show a very different compromise. Small central air intake, yes, but fairly generous side pod inlets. It's an extreme car, but with safety nets built in. Red Bull didn't build safety nets. They built a tightrope. Scenario 1. Red Bull's cooling holds, and they dominate from lights out in Bahrain, leaving Ferrari and Mercedes scrambling for answers they won't find until summer. Scenario 2. The RB22 overheats mid-season. and Red Bull is forced to redesign on the fly, bleeding points while Ferrari's cautious approach suddenly looks like genius. Scenario 3. Hadjar's crash was just the beginning, and the aggressive philosophy that makes the RB22 fast also makes it fragile in ways Red Bull hasn't anticipated yet. Has Red Bull nailed the 2026 formula? Or has the crash in turn 14 already exposed the cracks in their master plan? One thing's certain, the heat won't just be inside the car. It'll be on everyone else to catch up or watch Red Bull self-destruct.